Hi, my name is Marvin Bilika, and today we're going to be looking at AI and the concepts that surround this topic. So, intelligence, or AI, used to be coded by human hands, lots of instructions, line by line, in order to get intelligent reactions back from your programming. But during those experimental stages, machine learning showed up where algorithms were written where they could learn from the experience depending on the data that's put into it and then get better at doing what it was designed to do. So AI is being used in all industries. A good example of AI being deployed is Netflix and its recommendations. It just learns your behaviors and patterns and looks at what other people who have similar tastes to you have done before and recommends that to you. Right now, AI is heavily used in self-driving cars, and then with those cars, they keep learning and getting better at avoiding accidents. And the goal is one day to just get cars that drive you from point A to point B just by voice control. So the inevitability is right now machines are creating machines, and one day they'll be good at creating other machines. So the ability of a robot to make another robot that's better than itself is an interesting fact. But this will rely on what quantum computing, which is still at its infancy. Once it gets to that level where it will explode and become commonplace, then machine learning will even be more impressive. And then the productivity will sure be there because we'll take people away from the dangerous positions of jobs and leave it to the machines to continue. That is the hope. So I have a couple of questions about the future of machine learning. Uh, how soon do you think quantum computers will be widely available? And machines are making machines right now. How does machine learning make this concept different? So this time we're doing the rise of artificial general intelligence, AGI. So we know that at the end of the 20th century, a lot of blue-collar jobs were lost due to automation. And now we are at the cusp of where the only thing that an AI can't do currently, because we have narrow AIs that exist right now that are really good at doing one thing that's been trained to do. But soon enough, it'll get to a point where a general intelligence will be achieved. Like just like a human being, we are good at doing a lot of things. We can do art, math, swimming, walking, running, climbing, jumping, eating, and making relationships and all these other decisions that are powered from different units. And you can decide to, like an athlete will decide to be good at one sport and then give all his all into that sport and become the peak of that path. But AIs right now are just, let's say one is really good at just running and then the other one will be good at swimming. But with general intelligence, you want it to be a complete package, and that's where we're headed. Currently, AIs are being used for taking the risk out of stock trading because it sees the patterns and predicts the future based on past experiences. Planes nowadays just simply fly themselves. The pilots are in there just to make sure there's a safe takeoff and then a safe landing. And currently we are developing autonomous weapons, and this is a scary part of it where you're trying to get the human element out of war. And how will that look like where these machines are deciding what's a threat, and they can be sent out there based on the information that's given, like facial recognition and gait patterns, and it can go single out one person and do its job really well. What will that look like once AGI is achieved? And then in the past, we used to computer scientists used to love the fact that machines can beat man at a game like chess, and some people thought it was impossible for machines to beat man at the game, board game Go, which had so many complex decisions and outcomes. But in 2016, Google's AlphaGo AI was able to beat the world champion, and he retired after that because he came to the fact that even if he's the best in the world, as out there's an entity that's better than him at what he could do the best. So there's that part of it where we are creating a world where we're becoming more obsolete. As human beings, we have two drives that get us going, waking up and going through our day to day. It's survivability. You got to wake up, breathe, eat, sleep just to stay alive. And the ultimate goal is reproduction and making sure that that generation is able to reproduce to the next generation. So when we finally achieve these AGIs, will they have a similar drive, or will they have a different goal rather than what drives us, which is survival and reproduction? So in this topic, I have two questions for you. Will white-collar jobs allow AIs to make them obsolete without a fight? And how will we be able to control something that we will be inevitably more powerful than ourselves? The next topic is from artificial intelligence to superintelligence. So superintelligence is unavoidable. How do we live in the world knowing that that is an outcome we can't avoid? So when you look at humanity as a whole and the age of the universe, we are brand new. We are nothing compared to how long time has been. Right now, we're just developing AI from the 60s up to today, and we're still in its infancy. But soon enough, its adolescence will show up where it'll have more capability and exponential growth. Just as a human being, short children just sprout during the adolescence. But now the thing about AI is when it gets to its maturity, how will we be able to interpret that? Will it be something that we can actually understand, or does thinking change once ASI is here? So like currently, machine learning is slowly robbing the need of humans to keep them working and deploying them and keeping them existing. So will ASI have the same thing too? Like human beings, we've pursued technology up to its limit. Like steam engines went up to that tech, and then we came up with induction motors, and then we realized that induction motors and electric buses and electric trains were fast there, but they were not mobile. They were tethered to where the wires were. Then the combustion engine showed up, and it was more mobile, and it uses fuel, which is more transportable and more mobile. And then the combustion engine became the mode of transport for outside rails and outside parts that are already set up. So once we had that, we invested more on combustion engines. But right now, since the advent of lithium-ion technology, we've been able to put the electricity back to being mobile, and now we're transitioning away from combustion engines, which were hard to control. They use complicated drivetrains just to get to the right speed, because the engine is always revving at a continuous speed. Then you have to reduce using gears just to get functionality out of it. And now we're going back to the electric motor, where it's more easy to control, and you can power it using AI to even get your cars to drive safer. So we pursue technology up to a point, and when it gets to its peak, we get to transition into a new one. So will the ASI be able to do that too? And what does that really look like? And will that lead to World War III? So yeah, as we look at what's going on, we are simply just engineering ourselves to obsolescence, and we will need to, before we get to the level of ASI, we need to be patient, or else ourselves will ultimately become the patients, because we don't know if it'll be malevolent or benevolent to humanity. So the questions for this one will be, will ASI create a better ASI or try to demolish all competition and just be one ASI? And the second one will, ASI threaten the welfare of humans due to our inability to cooperate, but instead compete? Will it try to mirror our behaviors when it comes to trying to advance technology? So, artificial superintelligence, AI in the box, and machine consciousness. So the time from AGI to ASI will be a bleep. Considering, let's say, Texas Instruments, when they started doing microcontroller chips for the original calculators, those were really big chips with transistors and IC circuitry to do the math, and then all of a sudden Moore's law showed up and the chips have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Right now we're not impressed with what a calculator can do. It's just another app in our phone that you can just go into and deal with it. But that was a huge leap between the original calculators to now having an app in your phone where it's not even the most complicated thing your phone can do. So from general intelligence to super intelligence will be a really quick advancement, because the AGI will be deployed to create the ASI. So according to some mathematicians and computer scientists and other people in the industry, they've always termed the event as a singularity, where one day it will happen and the explosion will happen and the technology will rise exponentially, and consciousness, an entity will be out there, another form of intelligence that surpasses human beings. So what do we do to control that outcome that's inevitable? So we have gatekeepers and people who are trying to, as they build this AIs, they're trying to control them, and they are gatekeepers of their own creation. So how do we put trust in people who are trying to advance to the next stage? Do they have control ultimately to what the ASI would be once it's deployed, or are we bound to fail? They're trying to create a box around the ASI to make sure it doesn't interact with the real world. But if the ASI is to meet its goal, it'll have to find a way to escape that box. So what do we do then? So for human beings, we have all the systems around the body that help us make decisions and help us realize that we exist. And that is the NCC, the neural correlates of consciousness. So if we are to design the ASIs, we have to do organic mimicry of what the human mind does and try to get the machines to do that. So in this stage, I have two questions. What is consciousness, and is it only reserved for humans? And the second one will be, how can we predict behavior on what we have not created yet? The last one is superintelligence, AI, and existential risk. As I mentioned before, the singularity that will lead to intelligence explosion. Once we cross this line, this event, technology will just be on an exponential rise. So ultimately, people see that the ASI will be the last invention we will ever make, because once a machine can invent better than we can, then what's the need of humanity to keep on inventing? So exponential growth of technology always leads to the law of accelerating returns. Like, let's talk about coal engines vis-a-vis gas engines. Coal used to be really dirty and time-consuming and heavy to just transport for you to do that, and then the gas engine showed up where gas was easier to manipulate, and the engine sizes could be smaller, and you don't need someone over there trying to whatever. Once you put the gas in the tank, that's it, instead of having somebody to scoop in coal over and over and over. So it became transportation became cheaper once gas engines were adopted. And now we're seeing the same thing with electricity being mobile in batteries. It's going to outpace what gas was able to do. So, and with battery technology growing exponentially, it'll become cheaper, and soon enough electric cars will be available to everyone. So what we need to understand from the AI, narrow AI, A.G.I, and ASI is human beings are just the the benchmark of what intelligence is. Soon enough, we will be surpassed, and we don't know what the peak of intelligence is. So the conclusion is extinction is a possible outcome. It depends on what we are doing now to avoid what can happen. We have the time in its infancy to try and mold this child, like a child being raised to be a good person. You have to instill morality into them. If we let it run loose because we're lazy, then we are bound to create a sociopath. And what does that ASI that's a sociopath going to look like? So 2 questions for you in this one. How do computer scientists assume that the A.G.I and ASI predictions are correct? And will mind uploading make the need for human bodies unnecessary? Thank you.